One Piece is taking a 3-month break. As per Toei Animation's Twitter account, Egghead Island will be wrapping up in December and then be on break starting in January. The anime returns in April 2026 with a new production schedule, promising to give us 2 parts per year at a maximum of 26 episodes per year. Toei promises to dive deeper into the world of One Piece by incorporating more content, tempo, and pacing. Now I have quite a few thoughts on this, so we're gonna skip the intro this time.
Damn, you guys are gullible.
Go crazy, go crazy, go crazy, no crazy, no crazy, no crazy,
Hi, I'm Shonen, and I was not supposed to be uploading a video today. I just had a couple of shorts planned, to try to get myself back into the algorithm, but here we are, so let's jump into it. First of all, I know what you're thinking.
Toei is so desperate to keep this thing going on forever, they have 3 shows running simultaneous. Corporate greed.
And to that I say, chill out.
Virgin.
But seriously, if Toei wants to keep their animators alive or, just give them a break so that they can push out a higher quality product, let them. They already took a 6-month break last year. And it's not like One Piece is getting any shorter, you feel me? So just chill out. Although I do have some fears of my own. And the best way I think I can organize this is by long-term effect, short-term effect, and then additional speculation. Well, all of this is going to be speculation, but you know what I'm saying, hopefully. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room, which is the old format that One Piece has been suffering from since well before I've started watching it. One Piece's greatest enemy is not Emu. It is the fact that it still continues to run off of a very outdated format. And that doesn't mean that every old 100 plus episode anime suffers from the same thing. Perfect example, I could rewatch Yu Yu Hakusho at any time. If I see episode 1 of Yu Yu Hakusho, I'm instantly hooked. I have to watch all 111 right then and there, or at least I'm very tempted to. But the thing is, with the big 3, because you have to get through not just hundreds of anime episodes, but old school anime paced episodes, it suffers a lot. But if people have a chance to see how well One Piece can adapt to the new anime format, then it'll give, hopefully, new people a reason to pick it up. At least by the time the Wit remake comes out. If One Piece successfully adapts the final saga in the newer anime format, and then Wit does the same thing with the first half of One Piece, then maybe there's a hopeful room in between where that middle section can just be done in movies, especially if there's already enough hype with millions of new fans in the Wit remake. Now, I know that's probably not the plan, or most likely not the plan, but in the perfect world that is my head, that could easily bring new people in. I just feel like it's going to be an easy way to bridge that gap, also to, take advantage of the way that new anime does stuff, and also maybe give us a better rendition of the prototype that is the episode of movies. For example, if we have some new hype in a Wit version of the Sabaody arc, or even the Impel Down arc, I can see a Marineford being released in theaters, Like I said, very speculative, but let's just move on to the long-term effects, where we will continue to speculate. First things first on the long-term effect, I'm gonna have to remake my One Piece's filler video. Shameful plug. I think the obvious long-term effect that we see here is Toei protecting their profit, not just for their own sake, but probably for Japan's economy. Because if there's no great replacement right now for One Piece, if there's no great replacement anime for One Piece right now, then they'll be fine for now, so long as they drag out the anime. We got our Demon Slayers, we got our Chainsaw Mans, but it's I don't know, it's like when it's like the Smash Brothers documentary. When Ken was replaced, he was replaced by 4 different people as the GOAT. But this way, if there's no huge hit anime, because I don't see anime being as long form as the big 3 have been, then maybe that helps the transition over a little bit. So whatever the new format is supposed to be to secure that bag, at least for anime globally. Or maybe One Piece ending is the worldwide recession indicator that we've all been looking for. A more hopeful long-term effect I see from this is maybe the animator shortage being helped out by this. I mean, if the largest anime studio can cut its production schedule, then we either see layoffs, redistribution of animators. Well, I'm talking about them like they're fucking resources, but you know what I mean. Or maybe it frees up these animators enough to work on their own projects or work on other things that they are more interested in. So instead of being on One Piece 24/7, 365, they have half a year break, and they can either take a mental break or work on some other stuff. And that way we see higher quality throughout all of animation, or at least Japanese animation. China has some shit though. Have you guys seen Lord of Mysteries? I recently started it in English, and I still have no idea what is going on. The main confusing part about this to me is how this is going to interfere with the Wit remake, although maybe that's part of their plan. As a weekly reader who is rarely ever satisfied with what the anime puts out, well, less so these days, I'll tell you that I'm one of those people who would be putting a lot more pressure on what the product is going to be going forward. I mean, I was really apprehensive about the Fishman Island remake. I was hopeful that the animation itself would be nice, but I did not expect them to cut out 30 episodes from the original. So I'm going to continue to be a hard ass on it, but I'm also going to continue to be very happy if I'm proven wrong. One thing I'm definitely not wrong about here though, is that since those 30 episodes were so easily cut out of the remake, it means that my One Piece's filler video is definitely right, and you should should really go watch it right now. My only real concern here with the seasonal format being so much better for the OG anime is that I don't know how much more room Wit will have to climb with the remake. And that's the only reason why I even suggest the remake being like, you know, just the first half, because if the second half or like the last saga or whatever is so amazing, then there's probably no reason to remake it. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want the Wit remake to be irrelevant or like redundant by the time it drops. I'm not saying it'll be impossible for Wit Studio to produce a great product or something greater than, you know, what Toei has to offer. I'm just hoping it's not the case that the better the original anime gets, the less of a difference I'll see between it and the remake in quality. I mean, sure, it's going to be nicely stylized. The Easter eggs that'll be thrown into it will be nice, and the world building will have a better chance to be better fleshed out. But now I'm just looking at this, and aside from like some hype moments and obviously better fights and better animation, probably quality in general, how much better can it really be? Even if it's better, how much shorter can it actually be? You feel me? Or how much shorter would it need to be to pull in a brand new crowd? Or at least pull in a new crowd that's willing to take that entire journey. For example, we just got word that the Wit remake is going to take 25 episodes to cover the entire East Blue saga, down from 61. I mean, we also got proof of this with the Netflix adaptation and now the Fishman Island remake, but is that enough? I mean, like from a time investment and also a time to wait perspective. Like 25 from 61 is nice, but that's still half a year. And let's say there's about a year to 2 years between each season drop. And let's at best say that each saga is covered within each 25 episode season, right? Like best possible case scenario. There are still 11 sagas in One Piece. Aside from how long that'll still take to cover, we're still looking at like what? Cutting 1,500 episodes down to 600? Like that's still 600 episodes. I'm doing some wild head math right now. I just don't think 600 episodes of investment at any point in time is going to be easily digestible or inviting to new people. At least people who are normal and not degenerates who are like willing to sit down and binge anime for hours on end because they need to look for a job. Sorry, I'm projecting a little bit. And it's probably why like a lot of new fans just watch One Piece clips from Reels and YouTube Shorts. Like I don't even think that's a meme or like a joke anymore. I've legit ran into people who are watching it on their phone and they have no idea of the backstory of the lore, but they're like, yo, Dressrosa is popping. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Anyway, let's move on to the short-term effects that I see happening here. Now, this is going to be a wild, this whole video is wild, but this is going to be a wild first assumption to make. But trust me here. I believe the first thing that we will see, or at least one of the first things we'll see, is reaction content for the One Piece anime seeing a spike in popularity, or at least becoming so much more popular and easy to get into that it's going to be impossible to ignore. Because truthfully, the only people I ever see reacting to One Piece are like people who are going through the journey, the entire journey, or other One Piece content creators. So what I mean by this is like people who just cover anime in general being like, oh, I might not be fully invested or fully caught up to One Piece, but the seasonal format is cool. This is like, you know, this is really popping on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Let me watch it just for, you know, shits and giggles. And I assume Toei's going to continue to do that thing where like they make it a little bit easier for, you know, new fans to catch up. Same way that they did the soft reboot in Wano, and you know, how Egghead kind of gives you enough to just get into Egghead by itself. It's like he's on a new island. You don't really need to know the backstory. It's Luffy. He hasn't changed as a character since, I don't know. Just, you know, just look at the crew, watch the crew have like, you know, some fun gags with one another, and then when it gets serious, you'll be invested by then. I just feel like since reaction content is so popular and since One Piece is already so popular, that having it receive the quality of the seasonal anime format is just going to make it easier for reactors to switch in between other seasonal stuff and One Piece. So, you know, instead of covering the new Mushoku Tensei, someone might be like, yo, let me do something better for my life and watch Elbaf. Now, normally this is the part where I back up my argument or like some claim that I'm making with some wild numbers, but since this is breaking news, I'll probably just do that on like a live stream at a later date. You just gotta trust me on this one, bro. I'm not here to lie. I just feel like if One Piece sees more anime award nods or just even wins like a Crunchyroll anime of the year one time, then we'll definitely see reactors push towards that and it'll gain more popularity. Although I probably expect that to be my influence because I expect to be fucking popping by then. The last long-running shonen is over. They finally converted it. I mean, what else we got left? Detective Conan? Gintama? Hunter x Hunter? I'm kidding, that was very mean. This was it, man. Like, I didn't expect One Piece to go the Bleach route and just, you know, top it off with a really good finale, but in hindsight the hints were there. I feel like Egghead was the prototype for that. It kind of felt like a soft launch, and then, you know, Fishman Island was like, all right, we've tested the waters, we can't really do this on a weekly basis, so let's really take a prototype here and, you know, at least, you know, convert it over to the new format. It may not have been seasonal, but they've done what they can to understand, like, all right, the first time we did this, it was kind of slow because it had to be, so let's just wrap it up in a neater package and, you know, present it to fans this way. At least that's how I see it. Like, maybe they liked what they saw from the last break, or maybe they really disliked how long Egghead's hype lasted. I mean, we still do have Chopper recap episodes every week, or like every few weeks it feels like, which kind of throws me out. And I truly do feel like the pacing has slowed down quite a bit. I feel like we were getting like one chapter to like a little bit over one chapter. I don't know why I'm repeating this when I have a whole video on it, but it lasted for a little bit, and now I feel like when I watch Egghead, it's just really slow still. The animation itself is really nice, but things do still take very long to happen. One thing I am very excited though in terms of discourse for the short term is that I can now say One Piece is one of the only shows that gets better as it ages, or as it goes on. Because Wano was supposed to be that, and then it kind of wasn't, and then Egghead also felt like the introduction to that, and then it kind of felt like it's hard to still put people on to Egghead, you know? I mean, I was trying to show my cousin the episode where Vegapunk gives his whole theory on devil fruits, and so I turned it on expecting it to be, you know, rather quick to get to the point, and if it wasn't, then cool, we still have, you know, Luffy versus Lucci, but just that whole sequence takes forever to get to, or to get through. So we're kind of out of it by then, but we're also very fucking high. I'm just very hopeful now that it'll be easier to put people onto the series, and I keep reiterating this point because it's very important. But there are still some fears I have that will either be proven right, or hopefully proven completely wrong when April comes around. The main thing is that we're not still padding, you know, we're not putting 26 episodes out a year, as if I'm part of the fucking team. I'm just hoping that Toei is not taking this time to be like, all right, we're still gonna pad things like crazy. It's still gonna be 26 amazing looking episodes, but we're still only covering like one chapter per episode. I just really don't want recap episodes, and I'm not really that interested in anime original content, truthfully. Like, sure, flesh out a fight more, give us more fight scenes, because we don't really get that in the manga these days other than clashes. I just don't want to still be watching one chapter per episode here. God, for the love of God, no more fucking Chopper recaps, bro. I'm tired of these things. Like I said, One Piece is a show that I'm very proud to say gets better over time, and it's going to be more so now with the seasonal model. Not just because of the pacing, but because of the spike in quality that we're expecting here. But maybe I'm just being hopeful here, you know? This could all just fall flat on its face, but I'm pretty sure it won't. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. I was expecting this to be a quick 20-minute video to record, and I'm looking at 52, so I'll probably be releasing this later tonight with very minimal editing just to get it out today before the chapter drops tomorrow. So thank you for watching. Yeah, have a good day. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Bye.